Thank you for joining me today on all things business and technology, Cheryl.
You're welcome. Looking forward to it, Dave.
Well, I appreciate you taking some time. It's special guest, especially since she was on the board of one of the companies that I worked at before, and then being able to come full circle and interview you. So, really appreciate the time today.
Sure
As
thing.
as we kickstart the conversation, do you mind explaining your role today? I know you have a couple of them from managing board, also Fourth Wave, which is an accelerator for women, co-partner with Sac State. Do you mind getting into that?
Yeah, sure thing. So yeah, I have a couple things that I work on. They're all tied together with really helping to accelerate entrepreneurship for women primarily. And so I have a for-profit. I do work through Vimahala Ventures, which is how I do investment in companies, and I sit on a couple boards of those portfolio companies. I also have a nonprofit which is called Fourth Wave, which is an accelerator for women technology entrepreneurs that we run in partnership with the Carlsen Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at Sacramento State.
Wow, that's a lot. So tell me, how did you get into the role today? Because I know you used to work at Intel. So do you mind explaining what your journey was into investments?
Oh yeah, sure. It was totally a journey. So I was lucky enough to work at Intel back in a little bit earlier times when they were, doing very, very well in the PC market. I joined their venture capital group. It actually kind of in the dot-com era, so that was a while back. So over 20 years ago is when I started investing, and so I had the opportunity to invest with them basically in everything that's in your cell phone. So I invested in GPS and 802.11 chips and the first mobile games and the first mobile video and the first SMS applications and almost everything that, is on here now we invested in. So that was a really good, kind of experience. And then when I left there, I continued, I invested with a local group called ARV. I also got into clean tech. I was helping GE Ventures with their clean tech portfolio, and I did investments for them. So I have a little bit of a history and background, good and bad, with venture investing, but mostly good.
That's awesome. And you've actually been through that whole technology from .com all the way through to where we are today with AI. What's one of those challenges that you're seeing as you're going out and investing into these women-owned companies?
Well, yeah. So one of the things and one of my purposes is to get more capital into the women run and innovation ecosystem. Right now, it's in the single digits in terms of the overall venture funding, while women are getting almost 40% of the engineering degrees and over 50% of the MBAs. So there should be more capital going in there, and it is increasing. And so that's a challenge that I'm working on in all that I do, is opening up that capital.
Now, as you go into opening up the capital, what is one of the main things that you look at as you go in to invest?
Oh yeah, so investing, one of the main thing is believe it or not, is the people. It's the team, what their experience is, what they're trying to do, what their vision is, what their skill sets are, what they've done before. That's huge. And then obviously the opportunity set. So what market are they going after, and how does that look in terms of near term, growth, profitability, it's a combination of those two. But I tend to focus a lot on the people.
On the people. That's excellent. And what are the core groups that you're investing in currently, or you're looking to help in these accelerators?
Yeah. So with our accelerator, we're pretty broad. We take women who have highly scalable technology business that are venture backable by the majority of them. And so I'm looking for that. Like, are they going to highly scalable, to make a big impact, right? So that's number one. But then number two, the sectors that I tend to be interested in right now are kind of high impact sectors from a, I would say from a societal good standpoint. So I have med tech, and climate are two areas that, um, they're not fashionable with every investor, but those are two that I look at. And of course, enterprise, is always a good one. And I have a lot of experience, obviously, in enterprise. So I do a little work in enterprise, but it seems lately it's been more med tech and climate because I think those are high impact areas.
That's a good way to invest on those high impact and what is close to you, especially if you're going to spend your own money, your time, and energy. Now, what is some of the advice that you would give to someone who's going to approach you in one of these scalable things of how to pitch?
Oh yeah, well, one of the things we do with our fourth wave group is it's very important to be authentic. So, you know, don't try to be somebody else when you go pitch. Be yourself. Obviously do your homework, know what you're talking about, have practiced, know your market, know your product, know your competitors, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, be able to talk, about all of that, but in your own voice, right? You don't have to pretend to be somebody else. And if you acknowledge, because all of us have strengths and weaknesses or areas, maybe experience gaps, it's important to kind of acknowledge those and say, hey, I may have an experience, maybe I'm an engineer and I have an experience gap on the business side or vice versa. But here I recognize that, and here's what I'm doing to mitigate that. Right? That's being authentic rather than coming in and saying, I've got it all covered, I know everything, that will never, well, it doesn't work for me anyway.
Yeah. Well, with the future generation, we've noticed that they have all this technologies. What are some of the advice that you would give to any future generation that's coming up and then becoming an entrepreneur? What do they have that we didn't have? And then what would you say that they should be still using what we did do back in the days?
Oh, that's great. That's a great question. So obviously, I mean, the amount of information at our fingertips, and with the new AI, um, you know, I should have. I was working with one of our portfolio companies. We did like a downtown product requirements document in, almost instantaneously, like in a couple hours, with some of the new AI technology. So boy, you have a lot of power in terms of data. You can find out anything about any company, about any market, about anything you want instantaneously. And you can put it now with some of the AI tools, you can put it in a consumable format for anyone very quickly. And so that's phenomenal. Obviously that helps you just go faster. Obviously, the other thing is back when we started, there weren't cloud resources. So you couldn't just like, oh, I'm going to plug in this functionality into my product and this function, this open source functionality, and, rapidly build your product. So I think there's just a phenomenal amount of services and technology out there, for entrepreneurs to quickly, experiment, build products, understand, the dynamics of the market. So it's a great time to try things for younger people and to have those tool sets, because it's fast and it's low cost. You can build your product, test your product. In the past, it was expensive and took a lot longer.
Now, on the flip side, what are some of the things that will get you into those pitfalls where technology is so advanced that you might miss some of those core things that you look for?
Yeah, well, just because things are moving so fast, there's other people doing things, so you have to be, pretty aware of what's going on in the environment. And, it's moving faster, right? So that's kind of the pitfall, is it is moving faster. Um, but I guess the other thing is sometimes thinking that because you have the technology, like you can make it into a business really quick. Like there's a business side that, is largely experiential sometimes, and that it's a lot of it is around relationships. And so sometimes, that's important. And for younger people, I actually do think it still holds true that working with experienced entrepreneurs for a little bit is very helpful because you'll learn a lot before you go try to do something on your own. So I'm most of the entrepreneurs that we see that are really, successful, fundable, it's not their first rodeo. They've usually been involved in other people's companies, and have a lot of learning from that then they bring into their own entrepreneurial venture.
That's definitely great advice to actually get into somewhere, learn the business, learn what some of the pitfalls that they will do. So by the time they're ready to start their own and get investments, they know some of those pitfalls and they know how to approach that in their product or their services itself. So as we switch
Yeah.
gears, one of the things that I love is what's some of your biggest failures, both in business world and in life?
Well, so one of the things we do at Fourth Wave, we're all about kind of the growth mindset. And so if something's not working out the way you wanted to or expected to, which you might call a failure, it's there to teach us something. So as long as you can use a setback to teach you and help you go forward, who's to say it's a big failure or not? But I will say that when I first started doing venture capital, the guy who's running Intel Capital, Les Videz, basically said to us, if you don't do any bad deals, you're not taking enough risks, right? And so, it doesn't hurt to make mistakes as long as you're going to learn from them. And we certainly made some investments that didn't pan out. And so that's one thing. I guess one mistake I can tell you about, which I always tell people because I think it's pretty interesting. We passed on PayPal. Series
It still
C
hurts.
passed on PayPal. Yeah, that was definitely a mistake, right? But at the time we were like, oh well, this looks like it's only for eBay. Like,
Jokes
how
on
could that
us.
be that? How could it be that big, right? And that gets to the second one, which is that causes, I think, to missed opportunities or failures, if you will, is we have kind of limiting beliefs like that. Like you only see a certain compartmentalized vision, and your beliefs are somewhat limited. And that's a big thing we see all the time with entrepreneurs that we're working with. They come in with, oh, this particular thing is really hard, or I can't do it, or is not possible, or so getting rid of, and first you have to be aware of your limiting belief, like, the limiting belief of this is only good for this one, particular situation. Is really to try to think more broadly and know what your own limiting beliefs are. So if you can get rid of those, then you can see more possibilities.
Now, obviously, you learned quite a bit by passing up on PayPal, and it takes a lot of emotional intelligence to get over something like that. How was that getting over that, and what were the best lessons you learned from it?
Yeah, so it was okay. There's good things, there's good deals and bad deals. Um, I just think, when if you miss something, then you go back and think about, oh, why did we make that decision? And how would we look at it differently, in the future, right? And so this was a limiting market belief, right, that we had as Intel. Um, and so, okay, we have to have a little bit, open mind in terms of um, how technologies can be broader and how they can go faster. So I would say probably that one there.
You definitely got over it a lot easier than I would have. Um, now, as you are in multi-pronged different things, board of directors, you're actually advising and then also investing. What's that work-life balance look like for you?
Well, actually, it's pretty good right now. It was a little bit worse when I was in the corporate world because you didn't have so much control over your schedule. And so um, I have some control over my schedule now. And so it actually is pretty good. I golf and ski and I found time to do both of those things last year. So that's good.
Well, when I grow up, I want to be just like you.
Mm.
Now, as we get into your advisement, that's typically mentorship. Now, did you have mentors growing up in business? And then also, how are you mentoring others now?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've had a series of mentors, throughout, starting in university, all the way through, when I was first at Intel and then later when I left Intel and then, currently. So, I haven't had like the same mentor all the way along because it's been a long time, but I've had, mentors at every part in every growth journey that I've been on, every different growth peak that I've been on. So yeah, I think that's really important. And yes, I mentor. Well, we had 17 women in our accelerator. We have other mentors, but in some way and shape, I was just on a call this afternoon with one that just needed some quick advice. So I have some that'll just call me when they need, hey, I need some quick advice because we've built a relationship during the accelerator. Then I'm on the board, where I'm more active on a regular basis, mentoring the entrepreneurs where I'm on their board. So obviously there's regular monthly board meetings and then there's intermittent calls between that. And those typically go on, while I'm on the board and then for some, even after I leave the board.
Now, as you're mentoring these people, if I was young, getting ready to want to approach this accelerator and have you as a mentor, what would you suggest I do?
Oh yeah. Well, our accelerator, what we do is we have an application process in May with the Carlsen Center. So, there's an application process, and that's usually how I meet people, is through that. We interview once we do a first cut, but when we get to the second cut, we personally interview everybody, if we're going to select them. So we get to know them. And then we actually assign mentors in our accelerator. So you get a business mentor typically who has business background in whatever vertical segment you're in. So if you're med tech, you get a med tech executive, and that's kind of a formal process. I think informally it's always okay to ask, politely, can I get, 15 minutes with you? Um, I have a couple questions that I really could use help with. And I think that's fine. Do your homework as to how that person can help you and that the questions you're asking are relevant to their background. But if you do that, I think oftentimes people will make 15 minutes. Now with Zoom, it's so much easier. People will make 15 minutes for you. Don't even ask for a half hour. Just say 15 minutes and come well prepared with the questions of how they could help you. And and then go from there. I know people who have, find mentors on LinkedIn. Some of our cohorts, find mentors on LinkedIn. There are some good mentoring. I know that the Carlsen Center does regular mentor events, like they do speed dating with mentors. So there are events in the community where you can go and do these mentor speed dating, which I think is wonderful.
Yeah, that's actually pretty important to especially with a campus like Sac State and the amount of people that come in and out of there. The mentorship is pretty important for us, the future generation. So I'm a big component of making sure people get mentorships both in their personal life and in business itself. So As we get closer to the end of the interview, one of the questions I'd love to ask is, what are 3 top books that you would suggest to anyone, whether it's for life lessons or business lessons?
Yeah, and I didn't comment. I missed your life lesson question because it's very important. We also do at Fourth Way something called leadership coaching, which is really helping leaders look at themselves, their own personal development. Where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? How can I personally develop myself, my strengths to be a better person? And that is not just at work. That is, at home and with friends and with community, right? Because you have to show up as your whole person. And so that's very important. So a couple of the books that I'm going to recommend are books that we use in our accelerator, which is around developing yourself as a whole person and a great leader. The 15 Habits of Conscious Leaders from the Conscious Leadership Group, which are some of our coaches. I love The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and The Surrender Experiment, which is another one. And then from the business standpoint, the one I'm most interested now, those are all like the first 3 are personal development. The last one is The Exponential Age, which is a really great business book about where we are now with these exponential technologies like AI, solar, and other EVs that are really going to reshape kind of our environment and our business success over the next 5 to 10 years.
Those are really good books, and I've read probably 3 of the 4, so I'm looking forward to reading the last one. As we wrap up today, what is a question that you wish that I asked, and do you mind going into what you would have answered?
Oh, yeah. So I guess the question that I might think about asking is, because I was talking about it, was a growth mindset. So what is a growth mindset, right? So that's the question. And this is something I learned later than I would have liked. But it's really the idea that you are always continuing to grow and learn and develop. And so if you go into everything with a mindset of openness, curiosity, and growth, life is going to be a lot more fun because you're not in a fixed mindset where you're going, this is good, this is bad, I can't change, I'm good at this, I'm bad at this. It's a mindset that I'm on a journey and I'm going to grow and learn, and interesting things are going to happen to me along the way. And from everything that's presented to me, I'm going to learn to take to the next level of my journey. And that's one of the things we work with Fourth Wave on, and which I work on with myself, is because you're always going to have fun that way, and you're going to continue to master new things. Right now I've got a couple companies that are applying AI into the medical space, and I'm taking an AI class, right? And so always having these growth mindset of there's new things to learn, both personally and professionally, really, and it also helps you with your team because they're going to teach you, whether you're the leader or the follower, your team is going to always teach you as well. So taking that mindset and being around people with that mindset will make all the difference. I think both in life and in business.
Wow, that's a great way to look at it on growth. I think what was the old saying? If you're not growing, you're dying. So to be able to have that same mindset. On that note, I want to thank you for joining me on All Things Business and Technology, Cheryl.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you'll tune in next time. For more information on how we can help your business, check out our website at sigmaways.com. I'd love to hear your feedback. Please send me a message with any topic or questions you want me to cover. Also, if you're in the world of business and technology, I would love to have you as a guest. Please hit the like and subscribe button below and stay up to date on the next video. Once again, I'm David, and this is All Things Business and Technology. Cheers.